Hello everyone, my name is Superi123 and today we're going to see if I can beat Pokemon Fire Red with only the move Metronome. Metronome is a special move that causes any type of move to be used at random. This could be anything from the super powerful Hyper Beam to the ever useless Splash. There are not many Pokemon in Gen 3 that can learn Metronome via level up, but quite a few that learn it from the move tutor in Cinnabar Island. But until then, I'm basically reliant on Clefairies. At only 10 PP, it means we can only use Metronome 10 times in battle, so I'm going to have to get a lot of PP ups and ethers so that I don't run out of uses mid-battle. Here are the rules. The only move that I can use is Metronome. If I run out of Metronome uses, then I have to reset the battle or just lose. No items can be used in battle apart from PP restoring items like ethers and elixirs, but apart from that no other items will be used. And if you do go on to enjoy the video, be sure to hit like and subscribe. Only 16% of viewers are subscribed, so hit that button and the bell and you'll never miss an upload. Also follow my Twitter at Superi123 because I never plugged it in the script, so I might as well just do it now. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So I used the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to make my starter a Clefairy. I decided on Clefairy as out of all the Pokemon that learn Metronome via level up in Gen 3, the two others include Togepi, who I've done a whole solo run with, and Mew, who is a legendary, so obviously I don't want to use that. This isn't one of my Emerald speedruns. I named it Scone after the guy who suggested this challenge in so many of my videos. Thanks for all the comments, they're really great for the YouTube algorithm. After getting the starter, here is the hard part, grinding it up to level 29 so that it can learn Metronome and we can start the challenge officially. What I did for a bit of big brain action is I started my grind on Route 22. This means that I could train EV points in both attack and speed from the Mankey, Spearow and Rattata on that route. I did this until I was high enough level to one-shot the things on the route and then just went to Viridian Forest, due to the wild Pokemon having higher levels and a better EXP yield. It took me a while, but just over 4 hours of in-game time later, Clefairy learnt Metronome, meaning I battled through the trainers and went to battle Brock. Needless to say, a level 29 Clefairy is pretty good against the first gym battle, random moves or not. It's just a wee bit over leveled, but I still had to get some good luck with the RNG. This run's first major battle starts with a few stab fury swipes that, despite being not very effective, do some good damage, especially when compared to Geodude, who only did 3 HP of damage to us. We got an extreme speed next turn and knocked out the Geodude, leading to the Onix. Clefairy hit a full swipe and our speed is lowered by Onix's Rock Tomb. We got another normal type move in Crush Claw that helps lower Onix's pretty decent defense stat before hitting a critical hit scratch, leaving Onix on basically 1 HP. Of course, when we're about to win the battle, the RNG doesn't want to go in my favour, as we got the likes of Moonlight and Leer just to prolong Onix's suffering. Eventually we roll a Sand Tomb and get the KO and the first badge of the run. It wasn't difficult due to us being extremely overleveled, but it was really tedious to get the right moves. And you're going to be hearing about the RNG quite a lot in this run. Right after the gym battle, I skipped as many trainers as I could so that I could get to Mount Moon faster and catch some Clefairies to add to my team. I had the hardest time in the world finding just one, which I called Rory, because that name is very close to the word rare, which it certainly was. I also used one of the Moonstones to evolve Scone into a Clefable, our first evolution of the run. And our first battle where we had to switch train Roy was pretty funny, as Scone rolled our first self-destruct of the run. A lot of firsts in this battle. I eventually caught 3 more Clefairy to bolster my fluffy pink roster, but I'm not going to train them right away because switch training them all would be a nightmare at this point in the game. I didn't catch a full team of 6 also because the Metronome move tutor later on in the game allows me to catch something other than a Clefable. After that I picked up the Helix Fossil. I know, wait, I already did this thing about the YouTube algorithm. After getting the rest of the 3 Moonstones, I carried on with the game and battled the rival. Scone is still very over-leveled, so it was just about getting the right RNG on Metronome and switch training Rory. I had to reset on my first attempt as I ran out of Metronome uses, and on my second attempt I only had 1 PP on Metronome left, with the rival only having their Abra. And by some stroke of luck, I got Perish Song, meaning that the Abra was knocked out after 3 turns and I can carry on, which was really lucky. And speaking about having to rely on luck, I had to catch a team of Meowth with the pickup ability. This is because a 5% chance in fire red and leaf green, they can get a PP up after battle. It's not the best odds in the world, but it's still a chance to have more metronome uses in battle. And after that detour with the felines, it was time to get the second badge. Scone is still pretty over-leveled compared to the trainers right now, and Misty was no exception. She leads with Staryu. As first turn I switch Rory out for some EXP. Staryu hits a water pulse, and not only do we get confused, but miss a dynamic punch the next turn. Not the start I would have wanted, as Staryu raises its defense with Harden, but we go one better with Calm Mind, eventually rolling a flamethrower that, despite not being very effective, is still +2 and knocks out the Staryu. Next is her ace, the Starmie, and even though I got the Calm Mind boosts, I'd rather Rory got some EXP, so I did do switch training and then missed a blast burn with Scone. Starmie kept using Water Pulse to confuse us, but we rolled Toxic and it landed, meaning that it was only a matter of time before Starmie went down. We did keep getting some pretty lackluster moves, but we did get Spiked Cannon one turn, which is a multi-hit stab move, and it was just enough to take out the Starmie without having to wait for poison. That battle was a bit annoying due to the confusion that happened, but we got there in the end and can move on to Lieutenant Surge. But before we beat Lieutenant Surge, we have to pick up the trade Farfetch'd for HM usage and go through the SSN, on which I battled all the trainers, including the rival who was a first try victory. He didn't really pose too much of a threat and did nothing really interesting, so I'm just going to skip past it and say I got the HM for cut. And then I showcased how absolutely awful I am at the trash can puzzle. Why am I always so bad at this puzzle? I honestly think I've caught brain damage from somewhere. But something I am good at is beating down Lieutenant Surge. He sends in his Voltorb while switch training is done, and Voltorb does hardly anything to Scone as we take it out by getting a Wrap and a Thundershock. Pikachu did paralyze Scone after the switch, but we hit a Crab Hammer despite Pikachu's best attempts with evasion hacks, finally leading to Surge's Raichu. As Raichu uses 2 double teams on the switching turns, and even with the +2, Scone hits an explosion of all moves and blows the roof off the place. I honestly love the thought of an explosion just destroying this entire gym, just destroying every trash can puzzle in sight. Just get him out of here. Before getting to Rock Tunnel, I caught some extra Pokemon so that I could get the HM for Flash. It also helps me towards the next couple of capture rewards as well, which I will be getting into very soon. I wanted the Flash HM so I knew where the trainers were in Rock Tunnel and I didn't have to rely on memory because I don't trust myself to be that smart. I wanted to avoid the trainers so I didn't waste time going in and out of Rock Tunnel to heal and waste my limited ether supply. I also got Rory to level 29 so that it learns Metronome and evolved him into a Clefable. At last, I have 2 team members! Whilst I'm progressing through Rock Tunnel and the Team Rocket hideout, here's a list of all the PP items available before the post game, and it shows that we have a maximum of 26. If I can avoid needlessly wasting these precious items over the course of the game, then I will. I don't care if I have to reset a battle 100 times, I'm not using that elixir that I'm going to grave rob from the Pokemon Tower. The major battles at this stage of the game were not too much trouble for my team of randomizers. I did the rival battle in Pokemon Tower before going to the Rocket hideout, and it was a fairly simple battle, the only issue being the Execute that loved to use Hypnosis, but that was honestly about it. The Giovanni battle was nothing special as it was a first try victory as well. Rory getting Blizzard on the Onix and Mega Drain on the Rhyhorn shaped the battle in my favour, but it was the trainers guarding Giovanni's room that gave me more trouble than the boss himself. Someone give these guys a raise. So I just sped through the tower and got the Poke Flute, which allowed me to make my final capture for the team, Snorlax. I know that catching another normal type may not be the best idea considering the plethora of other types that I could have caught, but honestly the all-round stats of Snorlax make this a perfect Pokemon for this challenge, as it can deal really high damage and also take a load of hits as well for when we don't get very good RNG, which happens a lot. Bruno might be a bit of a challenge in the Elite Four since we've got all normal types, but apart from that, normal types are solid. And after all that fun and excitement, I made my way to Fuchsia City, and after struggling against the trainers in Koga's gym, I decided to battle Erica for the 4th badge instead. This battle starts with Erica sending out Victory Bell, who starts with a Stun Spore to paralyze us as we hit an Air Cutter. But the next good move we got was Guillotine, which is a one-hit KO move, so that was pretty fun to get. You don't normally land one-hit KO moves too often in these runs. Tangela came out next, and our moves start off pretty well with Ancient Power, and then we go right into the trash with String Shot and Flatter. Flatter raising Tangela's special attack. Luckily our last move was Double Edge, which went off of our same type attack bonus, and it's just a generally good move, and Tangela was taken down. Vileplume is our last, and it knocks out Rory due to his low health, and I go into Scone. Scone starts off well by hitting a Hydro Cannon, almost knocking out Vileplume despite the type disadvantage. But since we left it in the red, we have that recharge turn, and Erica uses the obvious Hyper Potion. Scone then hit a Flame Wheel for some great damage before the RNG gave me the weakest moves that it could. It gave me status ailments and low power moves, and the best move that I got was Bind. But the good thing about it is that it does residual damage, which actually knocked out the Vileplume and won me the battle. I can honestly say that I've never won a battle using Bind before. After the gym, I got to catching a boatload of Pokemon so that I can get the two really good items that will help greatly with this challenge. The first being the item finder after registering 30 Pokemon to the Pokédex. This allows me to collect 2 leftovers from where both the wild Snorlax were. And the next item that I got from registering 50 Pokemon was the EXP share. That one took a while to get, but it's going to make grinding my other Clefairy to level 29 a whole lot easier. In preparation for the Koga battle, I stuck the EXP share on my other Clefairy and battled all the trainers in Silphco. Well, the trainers apart from the rival who kicked my butt. But ignoring that, it went fine, and I evolved the third member of the team, Gimme the third Clefable. I'm definitely going to need more than 2 Clefables for these next battles because they are really tough. I also deleted all the moves off my Clefables apart from Metronome, of course. I don't know why I did this, but I did. So with the Koga battle, there are many reasons as to why it is so difficult in challenge runs. The first being his team are fairly defensive, especially his Muck who loves to set up evasion hacks, making it near impossible to hit. And then the rest of his team have the move Toxic, which increases damage in every turn. Taking all of this into consideration, it took me well over double-digit tries to beat. But on the winning run, it was the perfect start as we got a Hydro Cannon knocking out the first Coughing in one hit, leading to that god-awful Muck, so I swapped into Scone since it's the highest level. We had some really good moves, starting with a Nightshade for fixed damage as Muck sets up Minimize, but that didn't matter as we got the 100% accurate Feint attack, but we do get poisoned by Toxic, putting us on a timer. Luckily the next move we see is a very strong Extreme Speed, which much to my surprise knocks out the Muck. Coughing numero dos is sent out and we use Milk Drink not once, but dos times. Yeah, Spanish. Luckily Coughing misses the Toxic, but it hits a Sludge next turn. We land an Egg Bomb for around half damage to the Coughing, as this time it does land a Toxic. We get another self-healing move in Moonlight to heal the damage done by Sludge. We got Will-O-Wisp, but it's cancelled out by Koga using a full heal, but a Dragon Claw takes us to his final Pokemon, the Weezing. Gimme gets an Ingrain, but it is in vain as it's taken out, so I go into Scone. Hitting a Psychic taking Weezing into red was a perfect scenario until the Hyper Potion came out, and then we got Rock Smash, but it was so weak it probably wouldn't have even knocked out Weezing anyway. We then get a Swift and a very weak Air Blast both sides of a smoke screen. But somehow through the accuracy drops, we hit a Psywave, which gives us a really good damage roll for this, and enough damage to win us the 5th gym badge at last. Honestly, I hate fighting Koga, and I'm glad I'm not doing loads of runs in Fire Red and Leaf Green. Aren't I lucky that I picked Emerald and I have to deal with the double battle Tate and Liza? Oh, I hate that battle so damn much. Oh, but I digress. Let's continue on. Now that I have the ability to use Surf outside of battle, I immediately went to Cinnabar Island and taught Snorlax Metronome from the Move Tutor. This is going to be an exceptional member of the team, I can just feel it. But before it reaches that lofty potential that I've just said it, we've got 3 boss battles in quick succession, starting off with Rival Fivel, the Silphco rival. It wasn't too bad of a battle until the Charizard comes out, and that's when the battle is taken up a notch. It did indeed take me a few tries to beat this battle, but eventually I got some good luck against the Charizard and won. But a battle that didn't take me as many tries was the Giovanni battle, and he was a piece of cake. It was absolutely easy, nothing really to say here. But now that the forces of evil have been chased out of Saffron City, now we've got the Sabrina battle, and she was definitely a bit of trouble, but not nearly as hard as Koga. I did lose 4 times however, with the main focal point being the Mr. Mime. It likes to set up stat buffs with Light Screen and Reflect, and then Baton passes those boosts to her Venomoth, who also likes to set up status conditions. I've had enough of setup and status with Koga, so this battle is really frustrating for me, but here's the winning run. We started with her Kadabra versus Rory, and it wasn't a good start as an attract failed and we just lowered its speed while it was setting up its special defense. A wing attack took it down a chunk as its Calm Mind may have been scary, but for a super effective signal beam next turn taking out and sending her into that cursed Mr. Mime. It uses barrier as we get a barrier of our own, but it's not enough as 3 Psybeams from Mr. Mime are Rory's downfall. I then sent in Gimme, who's got Doom Desire and a double team as Mr. Mime sets up 2 more barriers. Then baton passing into Venomoth to give it those stat boosts, including the prior Calm Mind. We do land a Spore on Venomoth, putting it to sleep as we land multiple hits like the previously mentioned Doom Desire, Wing Attack and Mist Ball, taking it to the red before it gets healed up and pummeled by an Egg Bomb and Ice Punch. But those buffs are too much for us as it stays alive and wakes up. It then uses a Psybeam and a Supersonic, so I swap into Snorlax, who looked like it was going to do well with a Sweet Kiss and Smelling Salts, but then it got Belly Drum, which does maximise its attack, but it took it down to 8 HP, and then knocked out by the faster Venomoth. Scone takes it to the red with a Fake Out and got confused and hit itself while Venomoth is healed again, and with some really weak grass moves, Venomoth can really rake up the damage with Psybeams. This isn't looking good. We did get a Crab Hammer, but are at really low health right now, so I went for a Hail Mary Metronome and landed Psychic. And what a roll this was, thank you based RNG. Mr. Mime is back and debuffed, but we only have 5 PP left on Metronome. Can we do this? Well, it started with a Mud Shot as Mr. Mime sets up its special attack and defense with Calm Mind, and after hitting ourselves and being hit with a Psybeam, we started glowing for Sky Attack and it landed. Great hit, and now we are left with the Alakazam and 3 PP left on Metronome. We roll an Uproar which doesn't use up our PP as it is a multi-turn move, but Alakazam hits a Psychic taking us to only 14 HP. It could easily be a Sabrina win from here, but she used Future Sight. I don't know why she did that, but it lets us hit another Uproar, and yeah, I thought the Erica battle was a strange victory. This just defies all basic knowledge. I mean, you're gonna win if you hit Psychic. So you don't use Psychic? Gen 1 AI, everyone. The next gym is Blaine's, who, much like Sabrina, was a 4th try victory. His Arcanine is really powerful, coupled with Intimidate from both that and the first Growlithe. It can hinder you quite a bit. And all of his team have Fire Blast, which is the strongest fire type move at this point in the game, and I'm still fairly underleveled, so this obviously didn't go too well. So he leads with the Intimidate Growlithe as I use Gimme, who got Rest first turn, which was probably the worst first turn move you can get as it hits us with a Fire Blast for around half damage. We did land a Toxic, but another Fire Blast takes us to 11 HP. We then get a Tri Attack before Gimme fainted, sending out the Snorlax next turn, who hits a Silver Wind before Growlithe takes itself out with the recoil from Takedown. Luckily we did get the boosts from Silverwind, so we kept Snorlax in for the Ponyta, but it didn't really mean much as it was taken out immediately. The only thing of note Snorlax did was use Skill Swap, making Ponyta immune to poisoning, which is really damn helpful. I went to Rory, who held its own against a Fire Blast to the face and forces Blaine into a Hyper Potion after using a Bubble and healing itself with Synthesis. After that heal from Blaine, we roll the multi-hit Rock Blast and take out Ponyta. And then Rapidash, aka Big Ponyta, is next, so I send in Scone since it's my highest leveled Pokemon. And what happened here was I rolled a Transform, changing Scone into Rapidash and giving it Rapidash's moveset. I decided for the sake of progress to go with this since it did technically get those moves from Metronome in a way. After taking out the Rapidash with its own moveset, I swapped out as using the Transform moves against the Ace would not really be in the spirit of the challenge. We roll a Bide from the Metronome as a Fire Blast takes us to 37 HP, and now you're all expecting Rory to be knocked out from here, right? Well, Arcanine misses following takedown and we are able to use Bide to knock it out. What is it with this challenge giving me victories in the most absurd ways? First we had the win with Bind, then Uproar, and now Bide. I have never seen Bide used before in my life apart from C-Dot and that guy who killed his shiny Giratina with Bide. That video honestly lives rent-free in my mind. A bit of prep before the final gym for a bit of leveling, I went to the Sevi Islands and also got the hidden PP max on 2 Island. The trainers in the gym were really difficult due to their team variety and near full teams, but hopefully Giovanni won't be this difficult. He hasn't been very difficult before, but this battle was obviously different as he stepped himself up a gear, and it did take me quite a few tries like the last 2 gym battles, probably due to the lack of levels, or the fact I'm reliant on random moves. Who knows? I started with Snorlax as he starts with a Rhyhorn, so it's a battle of the defences, and we got a Powder Snow and Froze first turn. What a start. Up next was a Teeter Dance and a Bubble, making him waste a Hyper Potion right away, and our next two moves were weak as anything, but after hitting a Magnitude 8 and a Stab Hyper Beam, it was time for the Nidoqueen. I swapped into Rory for this and it lowered its attack with Growl, which was so helpful for facing something that loves to spam Earthquake. A Will-O-Wisp also burns it, making its attack lower by even further, so its Earthquakes are more like a Magnitude 2 at this stage. We hit a few more moves, but it's the eventual burn that takes it out, leading to the Nidoking. And I'd have loved for the attack drops on this Pokemon since its attack is way higher than Nidoqueen's. We hit an Icy Wind for almost half as an Earthquake takes out Rory. Now that's how you do an Earthquake. I sent in Gimme, and despite using a useless block and being hit by a powerful Earthquake, we do hit Ice Beam and knock it out. Dugtrio is next and obviously outspeeds Gimme, leaving her on 4 HP, and of course we roll a Sweet Scent. I would rather have Gimme fainted rather than wasting a Metronome like that. The usual powerhouse in Scone is next, and after being hit by Earthquakes either side of a triple kick, we get Tail Glow, which raises our special attack immensely, and making the following Ember supercharged and knocks out Dugtrio from half health. Its last Pokemon is another Rhyhorn, and swapping into Snorlax was a bad idea in hindsight due to the massive special attack boost we got. We even rolled a Fire Punch that burns, making Giovanni use a full heal, while we used the weakest Fury Cutter ever. Snorlax gets Substitute, but it is immediately broken into a takedown, so Snorlax uses Double Team, but that didn't help either, as it is now a 1v1 with Scone after Snorlax was taken out by an Earthquake. Pursuit does enough to almost take out Rhyhorn as it lowers our speed with Scary Face, but Giovanni uses a Hyper Potion to try and salvage this battle in his favour. But it doesn't help as we get a hidden power, I'm not sure what type, but we take it back to half health, and then a 4-time super effective Waterfall wins us the battle and the final gym badge. A massive relief that all the badges are got, but the challenge is not over yet. But before we face the Elite Four, we have one last rival battle, and my god, was this the worst battle in the whole run. Like, this took me days to actually beat. I'm not going to bore you with all the little details, but basically, RNG was never fully in my favour, and if I couldn't get a good roll on the first few Pokemon, the Charizard would have the easiest jobs of cleaning up, forcing me to go around the region and grind, and even training a new Clefairy just in case, this one called Gem. I'm just going to do a quick recap of this battle. So with the Pidgeot we actually got some decent moves like Cosmic Power, which raised Scone's stats, and hit a Hyper Beam. For Rhyhorn I swapped into Gimme and got Mudshot and Ice Beam, which was perfect, 2 super effective moves, so I kept it in for the Execute and got Milk Drink to go back to full health. Then I got Stun Spoiled, which is always a hindrance, and we paralysed the Execute back with Body Slam, and eventually hitting it with Icicle Spear to knock it out after it fails to charge its Solar Beam because of confusion. Alakazam was next, and it's really strong if you give it the chance to set up, so I went into Scone again. It starts to set up Calm Mind, which is awful news, and hits a very strong Psychic and forces us to switch out after it uses Disable on us, stopping Metronome from being used. I actually sent in Farfetch to try and take a hit, but it didn't actually get hit, so I swapped out again into Gimme, but as soon as I did, it got one-shot by Future Sight. Scone is back in and it survives another Psychic and knocks out Alakazam with Slam. Nice rhymes. Scone is on the ropes, so I kept it inverted the Gyarados to take the Intimidate before it gets knocked out. It did get a Thunder Wave off on it, so that's really helpful. Rory got some great moves in on the Gyarados, including a Dynamic Punch to give it the Power Fusion, as it missed a Hydro Pump in the rain, which would have been deadly. And then we hit a Zap Cannon, which is obviously a one-shot on a Water Flying type. Now we just have Charizard left in the rain. Because of the rain, it uses Wing Attack, as a Psycho Boost doesn't do as much as I would have hoped, and a Volt Tackle only takes the Charizard below half. That would have certainly done more if we didn't have a special attack lowered by Psycho Boost. The rain stopped and it uses Flamethrower on Rory, leaving us with a 1v1 with Snorlax. Flamethrower does around 60 HP, but because of our great HP, we can get in a Growl to raise our attack. And in the end, it was pivotal, that Growl, as despite another Flamethrower, Snorlax gets the boosted 4-time super effective Ancient Power, and I've finally beaten that rival battle. And if that caused me this much trouble, then grinding before the Elite Four is a must. And grinding is exactly what I did. I had a few practice runs against the Elite Four without healing the PP of Metronome, and actually made it to Agatha once, which was really interesting. but I was certainly outclassed in terms of levels. So I had everyone leveled around the level 70 mark, including the new addition to the team in treble. Level 70 did seem a bit excessive, but when you're relying on sheer luck, you need as much HP and defense as you can get. I also got some extra PP ups and rare candies from my Meowth squad, which was really helpful, but I'm definitely going to have to save in between Elite 4 members if I want to keep my items. And at these high of levels, it wasn't too much of a surprise to me that Lorelei was the first try victory. In my practice run, she is normally a bit annoying with statuses and defense boosting, but overall not rage inducing like the rival. She leads with Dugong as I start with treble and get in a Thunder Wave before the Dugong has a chance to use Safeguard as it hits a Surf. We then hit a Sacred Fire and a strong Magical Leaf either side of Hail and Ice Beam. A critical hit Waterfall finishes the job, and it was just luckily out of healing range. Next is Cloyster, who loves to stall with Dive and Protect, but didn't get a chance to do either as it was knocked out by a one-hit Sacred Fire. Slowbro likes to use Amnesia to raise its special defense a lot, so it would be hard to take down given the chance, but first turn we get Sleep Powder to stop that from happening right away. A Cotton Spore followed to lower the speed of something with slow in its name before hitting a measly Metal Claw and a critical Ice Punch. Slowbro woke up to use Surf and take treble into the red. A 4-hit barrage with some crits does an alright amount of damage before it's taken out by a second Surf. I sent in Snorlax next, and it really didn't go too well in terms of moves. We got some real stinkers in Fury Cutter, Giga Drain and Reversal. Then living up to the expectations of a Snorlax, Yawn makes it fall asleep for 100 years. Eventually Snorlax does wake up, and after a Future Sight lowers the Slowbro's health enough, a critical Swift is enough to finish it. Lapras is next, and it's very bulky, so I send in the powerhouse that is Scone. Bonemerang hits twice and then gets confused with Confuse Ray. Regardless of that, we get off a Thunder Punch, prompting the consumption of a Citrus Berry from Nessie's Kanto cousin. And on that same turn, Scone hits itself and is hit by an Ice Beam, but breaking through the confusion we hit Jump Kick and are just left with Jinx. Jinx was my main issue every time with this battle, as it has Lovely Kiss, which puts us to sleep, and then it can just wail on us without reply. I sent in Gem, which was outsped and hit by Ice Punch, and used Frustration, which was really weak because all my clefs love me. Then the Lovely Kisses started, and they were anything but lovely, especially when being hit by some frozen mitts. Gem did wake up and almost one-shot with Rock Throw, but sadly it just led Lorelei to use a Full Restore instead. We did manage to wake up Gem to use Disable, making Jinx unable to use Ice Punch, but it does have other damaging moves. I sent in Snorlax, but kept being put to sleep since it's the slowest thing in the world. The only thing of note was getting beat up to take Jinx to around half health. I had enough of the slowness and sent in Gimme, who immediately hit a Strength, and we won round 1 of the Elite Four. It was pretty annoying but not too difficult, so I healed up and went to fight Bruno next. Bruno is still not too troublesome as usual, despite my entire team's glaring weakness to fighting types. I started with Rory as he leads with Onyx, and we get a Leech Seed first turn which will gradually take the Onyx down. It keeps hitting Rock Tombs making us slower, and then hits Earthquake when it's faster than us. But we get Conversion 2 making us a Rock type, so obviously we would be weak to Earthquake, so I swapped into Gem as Onyx missed an Iron Tail. We land Poison Gas to poison the Onyx, and it goes for the Earthquake. Bruno uses a Full Restore to heal Onyx and cure the poison, but we get Sludge next turn and the poison returns. Eventually we get a Psybeam and knock out Onyx, leading to Hitmonchan. It uses a Sky Uppercut on us, which isn't a one-shot somehow, but we roll a pointless charge and Gem is KO'd. I sent in Trouble, but forgot I didn't have any PP on Metronome and swapped into Rory because I'm a P-Brain. Hitmonchan uses Rock Tomb for some reason, and a Sky Uppercut takes us to 48 HP, and a quick Mach Punch is enough to basically sweep Rory. Gimme is sent in, and we Iron Tailed it to the red as it misses a Rock Tomb. Hitmonchan keeps using Rock Tomb for some reason as we knock it out with Dig. Why it didn't use its fighting moves is beyond me. Hitmonlee is next, and it Brick Breaks Gimme to 15 HP as we fail an assist and are taken out. Treble comes in again by mistake, so Snorlax it is for real. Brick Break sends us to around half in one go, granted Snorlax wasn't at full health to begin with. Another Brick Break takes Snorlax to 76 HP, but it lands a Spore, and with that free turn, Hitmonlee is one hit with a Smelling Salt. His Ace the Machamp is out next, and this was the scariest threat. Somehow we actually outspeed it and hit Flame Wheel, getting the burn, but scarily activating its ability Guts, which gets off a boosted Cross Chop which will obviously knock out Snorlax. Scone is sent in and hit 4 successive Bone Rushes, with 2 being critical hits, sending Machamp into the red, and for some reason he uses Scary Face. A citrus berry stops Machamp being taken out by the burn, and Bruno even uses a full restore for good measure. But at least it hasn't got Guts active anymore. Oh wait, yeah it does, because that next move was Zap Cannon and it paralysed it. We get a critical hit on Dig as the AI refuses to use Cross Chop and uses Rock Tomb instead. We give him another chance to use his Brain as Hidden Power isn't a knockout and he just uses Scary Face again. Look Bruno, my man, we tried to help you out, but we just knock out the Machamp anyway. Bruno's last Pokemon is another Onix and we just hit a Revenge and Drill Peck on one, and I legit think that I've lost brain cells from that battle. Agatha was definitely the most challenging of the Elite Four by a mile. Her first Pokemon is Gengar, which loves to spam Double Team and Toxic. I got the idea to use Snorlax first since it has the ability Immunity to negate the poison. We also have a lower set of moves that will be a good roll, as ground and normal moves won't work on our Gengars and Haunter, and our Golbat is immune to ground also. Leading with Snorlax as she starts with their infamous Gengar as we both start with Double Team. Gengar uses a second Double Team as we hit a Volt Tackle for half damage. Gengar then uses Confuse Ray as we have 2 turns of hitting ourselves before landing a Feint Attack for the KO. That is honestly the best move I could have got since it's super effective and it always hits. Golbat was a strange one to battle as it was obviously going to be swapped out since we used Perish Song and it missed an Air Cutter. It did love to use Air Cutter while it was out and we not only miss a Grass Whistle but get a Bone Meringue which doesn't even work. I swapped into Gimme as Agatha swaps into Arbok which activates its Intimidate. We got in some small damage with Clamp and Reversal, but I swapped into Gem since the Intimidate was ruining me. Sludge Bomb lands twice and even poisons, but Gem hits a strong Steel Wing which brings the Golbat back in after knocking out the Arbok. It goes right back into the Air Cutters and then the poison takes its toll on Gem. Rory comes in and uses his dashing good looks to stop the Golbat from attacking with an Attract. Then a Waterfall and Pursuit are the sucker punches to the Golbat, taking it out. Gengar number 2 comes into the battle and hits 2 Sludge Bombs to knock out Rory, so I sent in Scone. Scone hits a Waterfall before being put to sleep, and wanting to avoid Nightmare, I swapped into Snorlax as it gets hit by 2 Sludge Bombs before we use Flatter, which confuses the Gengar but also raises its special attack, which is terrifying. Fitting for a Ghost type to be scary. After being hit by another Sludge Bomb, Gengar hits itself in confusion, and Snorlax wakes up and rolls Crunch. And what a great roll that was yet again on a Gengar, taking it out. Haunter is our last Pokemon and we roll Perish Song, and all I've got to do is sit back and relax. In fact, the Perish Song didn't even knock out the Haunter as we rolled a Thunder. That was a difficult battle, but such a satisfying way to win. Lance wasn't as difficult as Agatha, but dang, he's right, his dragons are pretty strong. He starts with Gyarados with Intimidate, so I lead with Gem to take the Intimidate and to use up his final Metronome. Gyarados hits Dragon Rage, taking us to a nice amount of HP, as Gem's final Metronome is a Bone Rush. Ugh, god. Maybe Snorlax can use a better move as I send it out and it gets hit by a Hyper Beam. Snorlax rolls a Dig, and isn't this such a fun challenge? I'm having so much fun getting ground moves on these flying types. Stay calm, because Rory will do the job, I just know it. A Sacred Fire and a Slash do get the job done, and now we can fight the Aerodactyl. The Aerodactyl hits a critical Ancient Power, which means I have to send in Treble. Our Revenge does a good chunk after it hits another Ancient Power and a Wing Attack, and I'm getting really sick of these bone related moves. Just stop trying to bone Lance's team. It's getting tougher with another Ancient Power as we heal up a small bit with Mega Drain, but we soon get an Ice Beam after it uses a strong Hyper Beam on us. But the Ice Beam is stronger and we get to fight his Ace really early. Dragonite locks itself into Outrage and KO's Treble, so Scone comes in and hits 2 Rock Blasts as another Outrage is used, but Scone says frick this and straight up explodes on him, taking them both out. Now for the first of 2 Dragonair, and I used a Max Ether on Snorlax since I was fast running out of PP. Dragonair locks itself into Outrage, much like its evolved counterpart. We didn't roll too many good moves with Stockpile being used, remember that for later, and a mix of Dragonair's own Confusion and Submission taking it into a Sliver. But of course, the full restore comes out, but that doesn't matter since a Hyper Voice was a one-hit KO after we failed to use Conversion. Final Dragonair and last Pokemon before the champion, who gets in the Paralysis with Thunder Wave and then uses Outrage. Our moves in that time were the Water HM moves, Surf and Waterfall, taking it into the red, as we miss a Guillotine. Dragonair 2 is the same as Dragonair 1, being healed up to full and starts to Outrage again. We get a poison powder in, but it's immediately healed by shed skin, so that's fun, as we succumb to paralysis twice before healing it away with aromatherapy, while Dragon Egg goes absolutely bonkers with outrage. But remember that stockpile from earlier? Well, we rolled Spit Up, which only works after using Stockpile, which is a one-hit KO on the last Dragonair in the most situational turn of events ever. This challenge has thrown out some absolutely crazy way to win battles, and I'm kinda loving it. So before the champion battle, I used all of my PP items and healed up the team fully. I wanted to use my whole team in this battle, and I have no need for the items after this, so here we go. Starting off with Pidgeot versus Gem, and it hits a sand attack that works wonders as we miss a Twister. Our attack is then lowered by Feather Dance, not that it mattered as we got a Bone Meringue on a flying type, of course. But the next turn of events after Pidgeot hits 2 Aerial Aces was a Haze to remove all stat changes, and then showing the Pidgeot who's boss with a Hyper Beam. Pretty cool start to the battle, but how will Gimme do versus the Alakazam? Well, it starts off with a Reflect, raising the Alakazam's defense, which was good for it as we got a Vice Grip. It takes us to half with 2 Psychics either side of a Sand attack, and we also manage to confuse it. As it hits itself, Gimme can heal with Soft Boiled, but it gets hit by Psychic again. We hit a weak Mark Punch as we are then hit by another Psychic, but with help from a critical hit Bubble Beam, we took out the Alakazam. Now the biggest annoyance in this battle, which was actually the Exeggutor, and it loved to use Sleep Powder. The battle recap for this Pokemon would have actually just been me saying it used Sleep Powder and Egg Bomb for 5 minutes, so I'm just playing it fast in the background. We did manage to stall it out of all of its PP and could leftovers heal back up to full, but eventually it was taken out with a Tackle, and I now have disdain for all of these stupid coconut trees, except the Alolan form because that still gives me a good laugh. Moving on is Rhyhorn versus Treble, and something that doesn't just spam status moves. We start with a Signal Beam as it lowers our speed with Scary Face enough to get in an Earthquake first turn. But it must have been a speed tie as we went first the next turn, landing a brilliant Absorb to take it to the red, and it misses a Rock Tomb. And if only that was something other than Absorb, then he wouldn't have full restored next turn. But because we got a Yawn a few turns ago, it falls asleep and we thrash it to the yellow. It wakes up and hits us with an Earthquake, taking us to 3 HP, and we can't make that last turn count as Treble is our first casualty in this battle. But it's okay because it's not alone in the fainted category, as Snorlax does a Kamikaze to take Rhydon down with it in a fit of sweet revenge. Now that means we're 2 Pokemon down, and I send in Rory to take the Intimidate from the Gyarados. Gyarados does its best dragon impression by using Dragon Rage a bunch, but it's not fooling us, as we hit some good normal type moves in Vice Grip, Stomp, and Horn Attack, as well as a Poison Powder. If it wasn't for that Intimidate, it might have already been beaten, but things don't go to plan as when Gyarados is in the red, 4 Restore is out of the bag, and a further Thrash takes out Rory, making me send in Gem. Gem takes a Thrash as Gyarados is now confused and hits itself multiple times like a dummy as Gem rolls a Will-O-Wisp, burning the Gyarados and lowering its attack. A Body Slam takes Gyarados into the red as the burn takes it out, and this just leaves the final battle between the starters, Charizard versus Scone. We start with a Growth, raising our special attack as a Fire Blast hits us for around 90 damage. Charizard then gets a Slash off as we fail a Psych Up, with Morning Sun the next turn healing us back up to max HP, before Fire Blast negates that immediately. We got a weak Fire Spin on Charizard as it shows us a real fire attack in another Fire Blast, but we did manage to set up a Light Screen weakening the following Fire Blast. Finally a Water type move to go off that Growth boost, but of course it's just Clamp as Charizard misses its last Fire Blast. We can Drill Peck it to just below half health, but Charizard slashes and heals with a Citrus Berry. After some pretty bad turns of moves just straight up failing, we are looking bad in the red. We did get Stun Spore however, but that wasn't enough to keep Scone alive, giving Gem the chance to make herself a hero. Charizard hits a weak Fire Spin as we roll Encore to keep it using the worst move in its moveset, but it doesn't get to use it as it's paralysed, and with a final Seismic Toss, Charizard is taken down and we have beaten the champion of the game and thus beaten Pokemon Fire Red with only the move Metronome. Oh, at last, that was a difficult challenge, probably one of the most difficult I've done on this channel, mainly due to the RNG of it all. This has taken me ages to record and script, so hence why this has taken so long to upload, but I hope you're all having a good 2021, seeing as we're basically an entire month into it. I think it may be quite a while until I do another Metronome run, if at all. My next video I am going to be starting up the Emerald runs again and be doing the starters, starting with Trico. So how good is Trico in Pokemon Emerald? And to keep up to date with that, subscribe and turn notifications on. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and comment any challenges you'd like to see in the future. My Twitter is @Supri123 if you want to message me, just anything, show me some funny pictures, or if you want to retweet my pinned tweet, then that's great, especially since my pinned tweet is always one of my latest videos. I hope you have enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next video.